Hey, everybody, it's Ron Johnson, and this is Locked On Sports Minnesota, and it's Friday. So, you know what that means. Yeah, normally I have a little ditty. It's Friday. Yeah, but I'm not doing that. You know why? Sports isn't as happy as it should be in Minnesota because football is just starting, but we didn't get to play. The Bears got to play early in the Hall of Fame game. Maybe one day the Vikings will play. The Twins did nothing at the trade deadline, but we'll talk about that. There's some highlights or lowlights of the Twins season. They might make it to postseason. And then, of course, we have to talk about the Olympics. That is taking over. We know on Care 11, you can watch all the Olympic action. You can record it. And every single person is dialed into USA, USA, USA. So we know the Olympics are exciting, but we're going to talk about training camp because the Vikings training camp has started. But before we get into today's show, one, I want to let everybody know we got Julia Daniels joining us. We got Reggie Wilson from Care 11, and I'm Ron Johnson, your host. Again, this is Locked On Sports Minnesota. I want to thank you guys for joining us. Those watching on YouTube, thank you. Make sure you subscribe. We're trying to get to 8,000 subscribers before the season starts. So all you have to do is use your YouTube address or your email address, hit subscribe, or on your phone, when you download the YouTube app, it's going to use your app market address, and you just have to hit subscribe. Now you get all of the updates every single time we go live after the games, before the games, the week of the game. You will get all the live content. You can check all of us out. And, of course, the Ron Johnson Show. We got some great guests coming up, Brian O'Neill, Fabian Moreau. So make sure you guys check that out. We just had Darius Taylor on. But, again, it's time to get locked in on these topics. What you got for us today, Julia?
Well, we've been covering training camp for the Vikings since it started, and we've got our most surprising takes from camp so far.
And I'm Reggie Wilson with Care 11. And, the Vikings, they're doing things in their DB room, but is it enough?
Is it? Is it now? And the Twins. I mean, they didn't do anything that we thought they should do. They didn't make any big splashes. But you know what, people? Right now, they're still in the playoffs. Sad enough to say, as disappointed as I see on Twitter, the tweets of Twins tweets is not exciting, but they're still in the playoffs. So make sure you guys listen to today's show. And also, I want you to guys know today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Just make sure you download the Game Time app. Please download the Game Time app to get $20 off your first purchase. But now it's time to jump into the show. Julia, take it away.
So obviously Vikings training camp in full swing right now, and us sports people at Care have been out there. We've had somebody out there every single day, observing, watching, getting video, sweating, getting sunburnt, doing it all. But most surprising things that I've seen so far. Number one, I thought this was interesting. I was watching a Hall of Fame game last night, and they're talking about Caleb Williams and his demeanor, how he's pretty cool, calm, collected, doesn't seem to be super, jarred by being in the league or anything like that. Not surprising. I don't think anybody's surprised by that for Caleb Williams. But it has been surprising to see J.J. McCarthy kind of the same. He seems like he's super comfortable out there. He doesn't really hesitate when they're doing their drills, and he's out there yucking it up with everybody. When he took the podium, that was last week, I believe, that he took the podium. He just had full personality out, everything, which is honestly kind of refreshing because I feel like the rookies that we've covered so far, like Jordan Addison last year, just terrified when he was talking to media, and you could tell that he was so scared. Same with like Ivan Pace whenever he would talk to media last year, and he's since come into his own. But JJ McCarthy, he is just fully dunking his head in. He's ready to go. He's telling everybody who will listen all the details of his life that no one really asked for, but we'll take it, right? So that's been the most surprising thing to me. He's done, from what we've seen so far, right? It's early, but he's done pretty decent just at practice itself. And also, one other thing that I thought was surprising that I saw the other day, Johnny Mutt, kind of a spicy guy when he's out there. He almost got in a fight with Brian Asamoah when they were running some plays the other day. So that was something that took me by surprise for sure, because I feel like, the tight ends, they're usually a quieter group. Johnny Munt, you don't really hear from him a lot, but I thought that was interesting. And Josh Oliver told us after practice, he was like, no, he gets pretty spicy out there. So that's something I think the Vikings fans can look forward to too, because, you know, the tight end group, Robert Tonyan got carted off the other day. TJ's still rehabbing his ACL. So it's good to see a little spice from a guy like Johnny.
That's Johnny Munt, the best third tight end in the league, according to Kevin O'Connell. Okay, get it right. Put some respect on it. No, so honestly, I'm kind of going the same way that Juju went. So it is interesting because after OTAs, it seemed like there was just such a big difference between where Sam Darnold is and where JJ McCarthy is. And JJ said, like, hey, I'm going to stick around in Minnesota and just bury my head into the playbook and just work. And he came into training camp confident, and it looks like that work kind of paid off. You know, he was saying he wants to learn more of the playbook. I think he's more confident, you know, calling plays now, and I think he's just, you know, growing. And I think one of the, I guess, mild surprise, I don't think anything has really like surprised me so much, but one of the mild surprises is that Kevin O'Connell said that he is open to giving JJ McCarthy some first team reps, saying like he's earned that. And I think that's very interesting to see because, like I said, that was something that we felt like, oh, it's like, okay, Sam Darnold's going to be QB1 going into training camp. You know, KLC said he earned that. And, you know, Sam has looked solid in the reps that he's taken. And Kevin O'Connell, to his point, was saying like, hey, you know, both guys have made some strides, but they've also made some mistakes as well. And he said he wants to see how the footwork holds up, you know, as the pressure comes. And, you know, we saw Sam Darnold on the first play of the situational drill when the pass rush came. He threw it straight to Cam Bynum, going for Justin Jefferson. And, you know, that was an interception for the defense. But, you know, we saw JJ McCarthy get in there and be confident, even if he did throw an interception, but he's firing that thing. And so I think that is something Vikings fans should probably be pretty excited about, is just seeing like the maturation happen of JJ McCarthy before everyone's eyes. It was interesting. All these national outlets are like, will JJ McCarthy start week 1? And I just remember looking at those headlines like, did you guys come to camp? Like, are you all here? Like, what is that? And now it doesn't necessarily seem so far-fetched that maybe that could happen. I still don't think it's going to happen, but maybe there's a chance. The only other thing that I would say is, again, just mildly surprising, is Jalen Naylor out there making plays. He is making his case for wide receiver 3. And I only say it's mildly surprising is because, like, the coaching staff has done nothing since Jalen Naylor has been here but praise his talent. And that's something that we've just been kind of waiting to see on a consistent basis because he has battled through these injuries. And he has so far shown that he can make plays, whether it's with the first team, whether it's with JJ McCarthy. He has gone in there and made some plays, and he looks good. That being said, put him on ice. Put him in some bubble wrap. Just hold him to week 1. We've seen enough.
Well, when you look at this team, we know Jordan Addison, something's going to happen unless the league finds a way to, you know, or his lawyers find a way to really just push the case of they have no evidence. If they do come up with something or they do say something, because again, it could be pills, it could be, you know, medical issue. Like there's a lot of things they can go off of that. And if that happens, then Jalen Naylor does have to step into wide receiver 2. And I think he's showing he can do it. The one thing that's surprising to me about camp is the JJ McCarthy love, but the JJ McCarthy misses. And I'm going to be very specific. There are a lot of plays in the red zone where JJ McCarthy is a half a second late. And even on the deep ball to, I think it was, what's his name? Tristan Jackson. Everybody was talking about that one a while ago, but if you rewatch it, Tristan Jackson has to slow up and wait for the ball, and the ball's behind him. If J.J. McCarthy lets it go on time, he runs under it, and it's a big-time touchdown. Now, one, does J.J. McCarthy have the arm? And we'll find that out soon enough. Two, can he make decisions faster? And that's why I think he's not ready to be QB1. He has to learn how to play faster. And how do you do that? You do that behind Sam Darnold. You do that with a clipboard. You do that with a little earpiece on the sideline, and you listen to everything Kevin O'Connell says. You watch the breakdown of what happens. You talk to Keenan McCardell, and you say, hey, what do your receivers want? But J.J. McCarthy being a little bit half second late. Now, some of the plays he is making, but when you're QB1, you have to make them all. Kirk Cousins did not throw the ball late. He did not throw the ball behind guys. J.J. McCarthy's doing that, and that's what has to change. But again, that comes with time and learning, and I'm excited to watch him learn and grow because he's making the throws at least when there's no pressure. When he's throwing outs, comebacks, curls, he's getting the ball there. So the athletic ability is there, but that mind isn't yet. He has to get faster, but I think it's going to happen, and that's the reason why they went out and got Sam Darnold. That's the reason why they drafted J.J. McCarthy, because why would you not go get one of the most athletic quarterbacks in the draft? Sneakingly athletic, as one of his coaches tells me, Ron Bellamy, the wide receivers coach for the University of Michigan. But you can now treat him kind of like Patrick Mahomes. He can sit for a little bit, whether it's 11 games, whether it's an entire season. Either way, he needs to sit. And so that's the key with this whole Vikings thing is Reggie, you're right. A lot of the media is picking up some of the throws people are posting online. Even though the media, we can't post it, but fans can on their TikToks. But, they're posting these videos and JJ's on fire and da-da-da. And the national media has no idea. They're just seeing clips of that because there's nothing else out there yet. They're seeing fan clips of highlights, and they're like, oh, put him at QB1. Hey, why don't you come look at some of these low lights? I was talking to Keenan McCardell about that, and that's the one thing. It's not a low light. It's just he has to learn to play faster. But the national media is picking up. Like I said, I could see him being QB1. I just don't know if he's ready, and that's why I am super excited for some of this Browns practice because that's when we're really going to see because the Browns don't give a darn about J.J. McCarthy and the Minnesota Vikings. And so they are going to make sure they put everything on the table in that practice and then in that game. So I want to see how much J.J. McCarthy plays and what he does with it. But we have to talk about this. The secondary, it was question marks. Guys getting carted off. Hopefully, by the way, too, hopefully Robert Tonyan is okay. I know he got carted off as well, which is super crazy because I was just singing his praises the day before. Then the next day, he's carted off. I'm like, my goodness, like what is going on with these tight ends? You got TJ Hawkinson out? Huh?
I spoke, we did like some sound with him and got some sound with him before practice. We were like, we're being so proactive. We're going to get this guy before practice. This is going to be great. And then he went down with those back spasms.
He's old, though. That's what people don't understand. Todd Heap had the same issue. I think my third year, it would have been Todd's like fourth or fifth year. As bigger guys get older, that back tightens up. And also, it's also how you condition. If you're not fully conditioned and ready to run and go, yeah, that back's going to tighten up a little bit. Like you're going to do it. So the hopefully is just a muscle, little acupuncture, little CBD oil massage, little hot stone back there, get in the pool, get in the hot tub, pool, hot tub, a little contrast, and he'll be just fine. Also, get those hamstrings stronger. If your hamstrings are weak and you're running a ton, it's going to pull on that lower back. I've heard that one too. And so maybe there's some stuff that Coach Kevin Key or Derek Keys can do, which is the strength and conditioning coach. I know he's going to get those guys right. But yeah, get those hamstrings stronger so that back doesn't hurt. But also work out. You got to run. I know a lot of these guys are in country club mode right now because it hasn't, you haven't wore pads a lot. It's not 2-a-days. But yeah, hopefully spasms. I take spasm over anything else. So spasming up just means like, oh, I'm old. My back's getting a little tight. But yeah, he looks really good. They were looking good, and then he's gone. But I will say the biggest thing for this team is making sure that they're ready to go. But when you look at the DBs, we had a lot of question marks. You saw Bobby McCain, and we'll talk about that. I'm not going to bring all that up, but there's a lot going on. And then they signed Fabian Monroe. So we're going to talk about that. We're also going to talk about the Twins coming up, but we're going to do all of that after a word from our sponsor. Game Time is an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down, closer to the first pitch. Priority, last minute deals. Save up to 60% off buying last minute sports, concert, and comedy, theater, etc. Anything. You want to go see Kevin Hart? You can get it on the Game Time app. Last minute deals. Remember that. Save up to 60%. You can save more when you choose a section and let Game Chime choose the seats for you. Just pick a zone, let them pick for you. Save money there. All in pricing. When you toggle, the feature allows you to show the entire upfront price. No surprise fees at checkout because you know you hate surprise fees. And also seat views. You can get a panoramic view of your seat in the app before you buy. I've done that, and that is huge, especially when I was in Detroit because I hadn't been to a Tigers game since they had built the new stadium. I was able to see exactly where my family was going to sit. And look, we got 11 tickets. It's hard to get 11 tickets. We got 11 tickets on the Game Time app. So just take the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets with Game Time. You don't have to think. It will do it for you. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code Locked On for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Just download the Game Time app today. Last minute ticket deals, lowest prices guaranteed. Well, now we got to jump into this confidence in the secondary, Reggie. And I know that's your thing. Like you were out there watching the secondary. Julia, I hope you didn't lose Reggie again. I know you like to lose Reggie at training camp. But looking at the secondary, I've seen a ton. We had Bobby McCain is now on the team. You moved down Jay Ward, and he's doing some cool things on the defense. And now you sign Fabian Moreau because they just aren't sure, which probably means Shaq Griffin isn't what we thought it was going to be, and maybe he's out a little bit longer than they expected. But Reggie, take it away.
Yeah, so look, the Vikings are accumulating bodies, that they're doing that, getting some guys in the room, in the DB room. And I think, the team is confident as it stands right now. Well, at least they're not letting on to anything otherwise. But, it's interesting to see how they're just kind of being content with just rolling with the guys that they have. Like, we haven't seen them make too much of a splash, whether it be through trade or, signing one of the guys that is still open on the free agent market. I think that's interesting. Instead of signing a guy like Stephon Gilmore, Adoree Jackson, as you mentioned last week, Ron, like they've decided to kind of, I don't want to say anything out of turn. So I'll just say they've signed some guys that may not have necessarily been on folks' radar. How about that? And so I think that's kind of telling. I think they've signed guys who have familiarity with the system. And that's fine. Flo is signing guys that he feels comfortable with, and that's fine. And these are guys that actually have carved out, quite a bit of time for themselves in the league. You're looking at about a 10-year career from Moreau, 8+ from Bobby McCain. So like guys that can actually help. But I think they're also hoping that a guy like a Caleb Evans would take a next step. And he talked about how, he had to get his mental right after last year, and he came into camp like in a better mental space. And hopefully, we can look at the Olympics as an example with Simone Biles getting her mental together, helped her become a gold medalist again. And, not saying that, a Caleb is going to become a gold medalist, but, I do think that if he's going out there playing confidence is everything in sports. And if he's going out there playing confident and just kind of letting it roll, like we may see something different from him this year. And so I'm interested to see how things develop, especially as camp goes along, as some of these preseason games go along, guys kind of getting up to speed in the defensive system. But the question posed was, on a scale of 1 to 10, how do you feel about the DB room? And right now I give it a 5 because it's like it's right there in the middle. It's like I'm not really sure I want to go past the 5 just because there's a lot that remains to be seen. But like I'm not going to go below a 5 because I feel like that's kind of insulting as well. So I'm just going to give it a 5, just kind of wait and see what happens.
And Julia, what do you think? I mean, Reggie gives it a 5, so we got that. You think about all the additions to the defensive back room. I don't know what they could have done anyway because they had to bring in a DB. So it's not like they, other than Mekhi Blackman, it wasn't like they were going into this with everybody super, super confident about the DB room, but they did lose Blackman. So what are your thoughts on this DB room now that they've added Fabian Moreau?
I mean, I think they're doing the best they can, right? It's such a cursed room here recently for the Vikings. It sounds bad, but it's true. It's just been like terrible luck. Guys oh my gosh, my cat just launched himself from the couch to this chair. I think it's like Byron Murphy is fighting for his life as a vet in that room because Shaq Griffin, we'll see if he's out there today, but I knew he was missing a few days with that soft tissue injury that he had in his left leg that we saw week 1. But even then, it's like it's so early in the 2 injuries already, one of them season ending. You have to make moves. And they told us they were very open that they were looking to make some additions to the room, but also, Kevin O'Connell did talk about like what he's looking for out of his cornerback room with the guys that were already in there before they bring Fabian in. And he was saying, like, how do they read these offenses? How confident are they out there? Are they executing at a level where we're comfortable enough to maybe not add anybody to the room? But I think the answer was no, they're not. And Caleb, he's in year 3 this year, so we'll see where he's at. But I mean, last year wasn't terribly impressive. I think it's also, we've talked about like how much can you really glean from training camp at this point. I think especially when it comes to a room where there's so many younger guys, the preseason is very telling, and we'll be able to pick up more from preseason games than anything that we're going to get out of camp. But I think as far as it goes, veteran-wise, Byron Murphy's fighting for his life and is probably pretty grateful to have somebody like Fabian come in who also has some experience, even more experience than he has. So, I mean, we'll see how it all plays out. But I think the preseason is when you really have to test out your depth and see what's going on with the guys in that room too. But yeah, they definitely had to add somebody for sure.
Yeah, when you look at, so what 1 through 10, did you give a number? I didn't hear your number.
1 through 10. Yeah, I'm gonna go. I would stick with 5 with Reggie right now. My confidence is not high.
Yeah,
and
Debbie
also,
Downers.
you guys have, you go out to practice and such. You see your starters for different positions will be out working one-on-one with the coach, rather than with necessarily their room and their groups. So Byron's just out by himself all the time working at practice and I think that that's pretty telling about the confidence that they have, because other position groups, they'll have maybe 1 or 2 of their guys working one-on-one with some specialty coach or things like that. But it's just Byron by himself.
Yeah. So for me, you know what? I'm going to have confidence in these guys. And my confidence in these guys comes more from, what's his name? Brian Flores. When you're at practice and you're watching what they're doing, I'm giving these guys right now, I'm going to be very cautious of this, but I'm going to give these guys like a 7 to 8. And here's why. If you watch Dallas Turner, if you watch Jonathan Grenard, Andrew Van Ginkel will be back, and you got Blake Cashman, you got Ivan Pace, you got in the box, you also have Josh Metellus, and now they've started to bring Bobby McCain down into the slot, so he's kind of in the box, and you also have Jay Ward, who was in the nickel slot spot or nickel safety slot spot, because him and Bobby McCain are playing the same role. And so they have those guys walking down into that nickel slot spot. I'm going to venture to guess. And again, I have no idea. I know people like, oh, I heard you were in the facility. I was, but I don't listen to the coaches or try to get intel. But I have a feeling there's going to be some type of twist where those nickel safeties are able to now come off the edge, whether it's Metellus, McCain, or Jay Ward. They also going to cover in the slot. And covering in the slot, the good thing about the slot, unless you get Justin Jefferson, you're absolutely screwed, or Tyreek Hill, which I don't think they would do that to those guys. That would be a Byron Murphy flip. They're going to be able to cover the seam. They're going to be cover the hook curl, and they're going to be able to cover the flat. And I think there's going to be some mix to that. And so the fact that they've already put Bobby McCain up there just with the ones, just to check it. They brought in Fabian Moreau now, who can also play in the slot. This is a kid that played. I talked to Deshaun Foster, who was his coach at UCLA. Deshaun texted me his cell phone number right away. Like, hey, if you want to reach out to Fabian, here's his number. And he's like, but hey, this kid played running back for me. Like, I was the running backs coach. He was my running back. And then we were like, man, this dude's athletic. Let's put him somewhere else. And he said he fully embraced it and became a DB. And he was the 5th rated DB that year he got drafted. And so I'm going to have a little bit of confidence in the fact that he's an athlete. Not saying he's a great corner. He's a good corner. He played all 16 games last season. So that's another good one. He's healthy. I mean, we'll take that. And so I'm going to give them like a 7, not an 8 yet, but a 7. And then they could be an 8 with that blitz, that rush, that Brian Flores grappling. I don't think Flores is trying to put anybody on an island like Xavier Rhodes or Darrell Revis. Like, he knows he doesn't have that. But I think what he knows now he has is a true outside linebacker. So that's why he got rid of Daniel Hunter, DJ Wanham, because those guys were DNs. They were not outside linebackers. And now he went out and found his outside linebackers via the draft and free agency. So I'm going to give a little bit higher grade than you guys, but I'm looking forward to seeing, again, we don't know anything until we see week 1, because Cleveland, all these preseason games, we're not going to see what Flores is really going to do until week 1. And that's what I'm excited for. Week 1, getting there, doing Vikings Game Day Live, and then actually putting my glasses on, because I'm getting blind now. I'm getting old. My LASIK is wearing off, and seeing what they're going to do. But we got to move on. Talking about confidence in sports teams, people. I'm sorry. Like, I should have wore black today for this topic. I feel like it feels like a funeral. But the season's not over. They're not dead. The Minnesota Twins right now, people, they are 2 games ahead of the wild card. And so, but with the bullpen, you know, there was all these names people were throwing out. The Twins could do this. They have all this money, and they cut payroll before to do this, and this. You see the Yankees making moves. You see all these other teams making moves. You see these young gun pitchers out there, and the Twins are like, you know what? Well, we're in the wild card. Why do something else? Why not? You're not like leading the division, but the Twins do what the Twins do. They are cheap. I know the Poled pocket protectors out there, the people that love to say why the Poleds did what they did. But until they sell to, like, I don't know, Bezos, I mean, until they sell to somebody super rich. I know that the Timberwolves have a partner now that's rich. Maybe he wants to buy the Twins too. I mean, when you got billions, why not throw another $3 billion out there and buy a baseball team? I mean, just go ahead and do it. But with that said, the Twins add a minor piece. But do I feel worse about their playoff hopes? I don't think I feel any better or worse. I think I'm just where it is. I didn't even realize they were in the playoffs. I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. The way Twitter was sounding, I assumed they were out. But other teams are losing. They're playing the White Sox, which the White Sox has lost 84 games. So in the near future, I feel more hope because the team sucks that they're playing. But if they play down to their competition, they lose any of these games against the White Sox, then I'm going to feel worse. And I'm going to feel like maybe the team is giving up. But it's always been health. If these guys can stay healthy, they're a really good team. But I don't know, Julia, what are your thoughts? They didn't do anything really besides a major piece of the bullpen. I don't know if you know much about this guy or you, Reggie, but what are your hopes about them in their playoffs? Do you feel better or worse, Julia?
I mean, I think they already lost a series to the White Sox this year. I'm pretty sure.
But that was before the All-Star break. That's different.
Yeah, nothing counts before that, right? I mean, it's just Twins fans. I think here's the thing with the Twins, and I think that they get a little bit different treatment than the other professional teams around here because they are the ones that have won actual championships before. My cat is launching itself from the couch onto things right now. It's very distracting. They're the one team that's actually like pulled through for their fan base before. So I think the Twins loyalists are extra harsh on the Twins compared to the other teams around here. But that being said, they had money to spend that they didn't spend. And I think that's where Twins fans have a right to be irritated about this. They cut payroll this year, and then everyone's wondering, like, so now, like, what do we do? You know, and it's not like they're playing really above average either. So it's like, okay, at this point, then really, what are we doing? Like, what are we holding out for? What do we do with this now that we have this space? and this money to spend. And I think that's where Twins fans get very frustrated, and rightfully so, because if you're not going out spending it, then what are you doing with it? And especially if you think that this team can be improved somehow. And so I understand the frustration there. I think I'm also indifferent about, does this affect better or worse, just because the Twins are, pretty average at the moment. So that's kind of my thoughts. I see where Twins fans are coming from, and they've been brutal on social media talking about Derek Falvey through this whole thing, and I can't really blame them.
Well, here's where I go with this too. And so looking at the playoff picture, if they were to start today, Baltimore and Cleveland would get the bye. The Twins would play Houston, and New York would play Kansas City. So would you rather get Houston, Reggie, or would you rather get New York?
Oh, Lord. Either way, like you lost to Houston last year, and then New York is just like your playoff nemesis. Like that never brings the warm and fuzzies for Twins fans. So is neither an option? Like, is there a way that they could possibly surge to get to that top spot in the division? Like, but we haven't seen it. They've lost 2 of their last 3. They've lost 3 of their last 5. Like, this team is like a model of inconsistency. They traded for Trevor Richards from the Blue Jays. He was just kind of middle of the pack guy, but they needed that. They needed another arm, especially now that you waited all that time to get Brock Stewart back, and now you have to put Brock Stewart on the IL again with the shoulder injury. So it is just really tough. And when you couple that with the fact that they didn't spend in the offseason, some may call it arrogance, others may call it confidence, but you go further than you've gone in decades last year. And, I still just remember Carlos Correa saying like, hey, I believe in the front office to make the moves necessary to improve this team so that we can go further next year. And then when I asked him in spring training, like, hey, like they slashed payroll, do you think you all still have enough? And he's like, yeah, I think we do. And I think the confidence was there because of all the talent that they have. The problem has been health and inconsistency with the bats. Like there have been games where they just go straight cold in the bats. And the pitching also hasn't been what many may have expected. I think, Pablo got the win the other day, but he hasn't been exactly what we've expected him to be this season. He struggled a bit. And I think when you look at the moves that were made at the deadline, we saw some guys that could have been had at the deadline, like Jack Flaherty from your Tigers run. The Dodgers ended up getting him. And we saw these players kind of, going to move. Like there was just basically a wholesale with the White Sox. They were like, you can get these guys. Like the Cardinals got Fed as a pitcher as they try to make their push. And there were guys to be had, and the Twins was just like, oh, we'll stand pat. And the guys blaming, or the fans maybe blaming Favre. I'm not really sure how much blame can be placed on him, just because like I feel like he's operating under the confines of what he's been given by people who sign his checks. And so that's the tough thing. It's hard to be critical because the season is still yet to be played out, but it is concerning when you see Kansas City surging now, and now they are a half game back from the Royals when it looked like it was them and the Guardians all along. And now you have this third team who is surging. Bobby Witt Jr. looks amazing, MVP candidate for the Royals. And if you think about it, the Twins don't necessarily have that. And now you're dealing with the injury to Correa again. Buck is healthy, so that's nice. But then you're like wincing every time Royce takes it at bat because you're just like, don't get hurt. And he had a situation this week where the trainer and Rocco had to come out and look at him. He's like, I'm good. And he was able to stay in. But like with the team that didn't do much in the offseason and actually slash payroll, like you don't want to see, and they can't afford to have injuries or anything like that because they just don't have the depth.
Yeah, when you think about this team, they got to do. I mean, it's too late now. But again, playoffs, Houston or New York right now. That's what they're looking at. And so Houston has only won 56 games. Looks like the Twins would host. Nope, no, they wouldn't. Never mind, because the Astros are the division winners. So nope, they would. The Astros would be the home team, but Twins would have to face the Astros, and then if they won that, they would play the Baltimore Orioles. So
Ron, and as I said, confidence is everything, and they got to go out and sweep the White Sox. Like, the White Sox are not even interested in winning baseball games right now.
Correct.
Someone brought up the last time the White Sox won a game, Joe Biden was still a presidential candidate for this election cycle. Like, that's like a real thing. So, like,
that wasn't that long ago.
I know, but it's still a funny thing to say. But
they said that they haven't won since Barack was president. Then I'd be like, okay, here we go.
And that's his team too. He's the Sox guy. But so that's the thing. You got to sweep them, and then hopefully, from that perspective, that will give them confidence to kind of surge them towards the end of the season where they're playing their best baseball. But we just have yet to see a consistent stretch. And it is a long season, so slumps happen. But we've yet to see a consistent stretch that has you believe, like, man, this team can do something.
Well, the Twins haven't swept the Sox since George Bush was president. So, I mean, no, that's not true. I hope not. Could you imagine that? Oh, my goodness. So we got to move on now. I got a little quick audible for you guys really quick. Omaha, quick audible. PJ Fleck was at the Big Ten meetings, and it looks like SiriusXM, one of our partners, they were on SiriusXM radio with Anthony Herron, Jeff Schwartz, and they interviewed PJ Fleck. PJ Fleck's comment really quick because UCLA joined. I don't know if you know that. Deshaun Foster, by the way, people, we talked about his intro. He now has a shirt. I don't know if you guys have seen that shirt. The team made shirts for all the coaches with the state of LA, and it has the helmet where LA is. It says, if you didn't know, we are in LA. So at least he's embracing the mistakes. Like, I love that. Embrace it. Wear the shirt to practice. Hey, yep, it wasn't my best moment, but I'm gonna wear it with pride. I'm pretty sure they're gonna monetize that shirt and sell it this season because I could see a ton of kids. I mean, we are in LA. Like, who's not gonna wear that shirt? Like, though, that would sell. And so I'm guessing they're going to monetize it. Smart by UCLA. Take advantage of the viral moment, like everybody does. Hawk too. Everybody's taking advantage of their viralness. But when you think about, I'm talking about AJ Hawk. AJ Hawk. That's the Hawk I'm talking about. They're on WWE now, if you haven't seen, with Pat McAfee. But anyway, when you talk about viral moments, that happened. But PJ Fleck was asked about his program and what is his basic comment was. I'm not going to play the audio, but maybe we'll get it next week with Sam and SiriusXM. But it basically just says, we are a growing program, which means we grow our players. We're not just bringing them in for 1 year and then send them to the NFL. He's not knocking anybody, but he's taking a jab at a couple schools. But he's like, we're not trying to buy players. He said our NIL is never going to be the highest. We know that. But he said we are still keeping kids. He said we've had one of our best recruiting classes we've had this past year. They were able to bring in Max Brosmer. They were able to retain Darius Taylor's services and Ariante Ursery, one of the top tackles in the NFL draft. According to Jeff Schwartz and and Baldy's breakdowns, he talked about Ariante Ursery on his breakdowns. And so PJ Fleck said that they're a growing program. They're not going to, but then you look at Texas Tech, for instance, they bought their pitcher for softball. They're going to not the championship, but they're going to be in the World Series with her because this girl has a ridiculous ERA. She's not scoring a run a game. She's less than a run a game with her ERA, which is nuts if you think about that. She's given up less than a run a game. I've never seen that. She hit over 72 miles an hour on her pitches, which is by far, she was like the second fastest pitch in college softball. But when you look at that real quick, in year 8, do you think PJ Fleck's taking the right approach by saying that look, we're trying to grow players? Because he's saying they're growing in everything, spiritually, emotionally, mentally, in the classroom and on the field. It's not just about money on the field. Go to the NFL. Good luck. We'll see you later. He said he's growing young men. Julia, what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, if that's what he wants to do, absolutely. But you're never going to win a championship if you're not buying.
You don't know that.
Okay. I'm being real. I live in the real world. If NIL stays the way that it is right now, and here's the thing, it's all about what you define as success, right? Because I think PJ Fleck, his main thing is developing guys into functioning and successful members of society, right? Unfortunately, that didn't work with Ron when he went through the Minnesota program. No, just kidding. But if you want to win national championships, you want to win conference championships, especially when you're in. Yeah. See, we've got the homer on here who doesn't want to hear any of this. But if you want to win any kind of title, it's just not going to work if NIL stays the way that it is right now. You have to buy players. You have to be investing, spending money to get the big guys. Otherwise, it's just not going to happen, if we're being completely honest. The reason that there are so many powerhouses before NIL happened is because behind closed doors, they were already paying players. So I'm totally fine if he wants to, I'm not in charge of his program. He's PJ Fleck. He's in charge of his program. If his main goal is to develop guys into successful members of society who are good people and have families and do all of that, by all means. But if you're talking about winning ball games and winning championships, it's just not going to happen unless you're willing to spend some money and buy some players.
Yeah, you may win on CFB 25, but maybe not in the real world. It's so interesting going into year 8, like the team is not necessarily sniffed the championship. And if you're juiceful, you're useful, as he said. If you're juiceless, you're useless. And Ron is pretty juiceful this morning with the helmet on. The headphones on the helmet right now is really
it's a vibe.
Really doing some things. Yeah, sure. But here's the thing. Julia's right. You got to buy players. You got to buy these dudes. Like, you're not getting the best of the best, and you're just hoping and praying that, some togetherness, some synergy is doing it. I take a look at a team like Cincinnati. I used to cover University of Cincinnati. Luke Fickles, now the head coach of the University of Wisconsin. Great dude. And he built a team of good dudes. Desmond Ridder, former Falcons quarterback, was his quarterback. And he built the team that made some noise. They played Georgia in the bowl game a few years ago. And then they played Bama the next year. Like, that was a really good team. Didn't have enough to beat Bama. Just didn't have enough. And I mean, it kind of, in a way, it kind of just reminds you, like, there's still another level that you have to get to. And I think, with PJ, he's confident with his guys, but, he's doing all these buzzwords and, things to help, build excitement and energy with his team. But, like, if they go out there and they get their doors blown off and, they don't win enough games, then is it really worth it just to say, hey, I developed some players? And that's Julia's point. Like, how do you define success? Most college football programs would define success by championships, graduating players and championships. And that's really what it comes down to. Are you
Erroneous on all counts.
Are you winning championships, Ron? You sound like Rick Ross. Accusations.
I can't believe I used to wear that. That thing hurts. It is tight in there. But dang, I guess it had to be tight to run through people's faces. But this is what I say. I understand what you guys are saying. You're right. You do. A team thing is a success, but there's only so many teams winning championships. And so I think what PJ is trying to do, he said it has to be the right player, the right fit. And I think a Big Ten championship is coming. I mean, and again, it's coming from running the ball. You look at Darius Taylor, Jordan Newman. They added 2 running backs in the offseason as well. This is a team. They added Max Brosmer. They have quarterbacks waiting in the wings that are freshmen that don't get thrown into it right away. I think Ethan Kaligmanis, that was kind of the knock, was like he never really got a shot until he had to do it, and he got thrown into a game against Penn State in a whiteout. That's not what you do to a freshman. And so allowing your freshman to sit back in Lindsey, you're able to let him learn from Max Brosner, similar to JJ McCarthy learning from Sam Darnold. So I think PJ is just trying to say, you know what, like our collect is also like Nick Saban did though. Like it's a call to arms for his collective, like to say, look, man, we got all these, we got Target, we got 3M, we got General Mills, we got Holiday gas stations, we got Toro lawnmower companies. Like we got all these Fortune 500s here, Land O'Lakes, butter. And you guys tell me you can't give me $50,000 to $100,000 a year just to help out, maybe to go get me like $1 million quarterback a year or something like that. Like that's what I think he's, or, you know, a $40,000 center. And then because like the offensive line for Texas A&M, even though it didn't work, they weren't great. They were each getting $50,000. If you're starting offensive lineman for Texas A&M, you were getting $50,000. That's why everybody figured, you know, when the softball pitcher left Stanford, it had to be one of the Texas A&M or Texas Techs because they were throwing money out there. You just saw what they did when they partnered with Patrick Mahomes and Adidas with football. They put the whole logo on the field and everything with Adidas and P. Mahomes. So now that's there. So it is what it is. I get where PJ Fleck's growing. He's trying to grow the program. He's trying to grow the team. But SiriusXM, thanks for doing that interview. Thanks for making sure you get out there. I want you guys to know SiriusXM is a proud partner of Locked On Sports Minnesota. It is one of our proud partners because it's where you can get Twins baseball. You can also get interviews like I just heard on SiriusXM radio. You can get the Big Ten Network. You can get the broadcast for if the Gophers are on the SiriusXM and the Big Ten Network. You can also get any sporting event, but you can get Locked On Sports Minnesota. Just download the SXM app in any app market. Search Locked On Sports, and you can download our shows right there to your phone. Well, we'll be right back. We're going to talk about the Olympics before we get out of here, and we have a quick pause. Very quick. We got about 1:30, but I want to get everybody's take. KARE 11 has been showing. If you're not watching NBC, you're not watching the Olympics, unless you're looking at Twitter and you just want the highlights. Track's going to start in a couple days. That's when it's going to get fun. But what's the best thing you saw at the Olympics this week, Julia?
I get to go first. Of course, Simone winning all around gold again. She's just such a huge fan. I saw something they've been talking about the perseverance that was on the podiums for all around gymnastics. You have your Brazilian gymnast who came back from two ACL tears, I believe, and then Suni, who's battling incurable kidney diseases, and then Simone, obviously, who's battled back with a lot of mental health, and she's been such an advocate for that. But to see her come back and win all around gold and just prove that she is the GOAT that she is, nothing really like it.
Reggie.
Yeah, definitely gymnastics. Incredible to see what Simone and Suni have done, both battling their own issues to make it to the podium and then to win gold as a team. Amazing. I've been glued in. Also, I've been watching this swimming as I've been learning how to swim recently. It's really been like it's incredible seeing what Reagan Smith has done. She set a new American record yesterday, still only got silver. Her dad kind of let on that she's a little bit, chapped about that, but she has a chance to go ahead and do it again. But also Sha'Carri ran this morning already, and she's electrifying already.
Well, we got to get out of here. For me, it was seeing a lifeguard at the Olympic pool. Useless job, but I know it's law. You have to have it. So I'm Ron Johnson, that's Julia Daniels, that's Reggie Wilson, and we'll be back next week with another roundtable. Hopefully we'll have Sam's on PTO right now, people. So we'll have our executive producer back next week. Have a great weekend, people, and enjoy the Olympics.